Welcome, amigos. Bienvenidos una vez más a su programa Ópera en tu sofá, a place where we share opera with you and diversity. So today we have the honor of having an incredible composer, a woman. Her name is Gabriela Lena Frank. Bienvenida, Gaby. Mucho gusto
Hola,
tenerte.
Andrea.
¿Cómo estás? So, listen, I will let Gabby talk about herself, but she's a very, very accomplished composer. And happens to be that San Diego Opera is commissioning her an opera called El Último Sueño de Frida y Diego. That means the last dream of Frida and Diego, and is based in the characters of Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. And we are all excited about this. We had a workshop last year. We are just working on this work with her. And for me, as a Latin woman, a musician, also, I'm very honored that she's with us and that she's sharing her music with the world. She will tell about her background, but she's Peruvian American with some Jewish too. And okay, talk about yourself, Gabby, please. And she lives in California in this beautiful woodland. You can tell us where it is and all that. Okay, vas.
Hola, Andrea. Well, muchas gracias. Thank you for this invitation, and it's really wonderful to be here with you. And yeah, you touched on it. I have a very interesting heritage. I'm the product of a interracial, intercultural, beautiful marriage. The best role models I have for how two people can be together in a love affair, and that's my mother and my father. My father's descended from Russians, Lithuanians, Ukrainians, all Eastern European Jews. And he heard multiple languages spoken in the household in the Bronx when he was growing up in the 40s. So he was a World War II baby. And like a lot of Jewish New Yorkers from around this time, they saw the world as a very dangerous place. So when he was a young man in college in the 60s, he joined the Peace Corps, which was a unknown young program started by a then untested and little known President John F. Kennedy. And it was a very idealistic program. It's still in existence, which is pretty amazing, has a long history. And Dad was either in the first or second wave. I'm actually not sure. And just like you cannot choose where you're stationed today, he did not choose to go to Latin America. And you just go where you're assigned. And he was assigned to this beautiful, small Andean nation of Peru. He was put in a coastal town. He didn't go to the montañas or the central Andean region, which is what Peru is most known for when you think of Cusco or Machu Picchu. That's where a lot of the tourists like to go. He was stationed in Chimbote. In Chimbote is por el norte, famoso por su anchoveta. It's famous for its anchovies and its guano, so bird poop. And this is what brought wealth to Peru. And my mom comes from a family of a dozen children, a very large Catholic family. Her father grew up in China with a man with her grandfather, su abuelo, so mi bisabuelo, my great grandfather. His name was Po Seong Kam, which is a Cantonese name. He
Yes.
was a merchant, came over in the late 1800s to Peru because Peru and China have long enjoyed a relationship of waves of immigrants coming over. So they came in the gold rush, they came for the railroads later, and they came for opportunity. So my mother heard multiple languages growing up in her household. There was mostly Spanish, but there was also Cantonese, and there was also Quechua, and Quechua, the local Indian language. My mom had a sister, an older sister, who was a secretary for the Peace Corps Volunteer Office, and there was a party. My dad was 21, maybe, something like that. My mom was 17.
Oh.
And they met at this Peace Corps volunteer party, and that was it. And they knew each other for just a few months, really, only when they decided, yes, we can do this. We can build a life together. Can you imagine? From
Yeah.
completely different worlds. And thank God, because I wouldn't be here. They relocated to Berkeley, California in the 60s, where my dad was there during the Vietnam War protests and he and many other things that were happening then. He was a graduate student at Cal and he studied American literature. He became a Mark Twain scholar and joined an important and independent but affiliated scholarly part of the Bancroft Library at UC Berkeley. My mom trained and became a stained glass artist, and she, like her brothers and sisters, were always artistically gifted. But there was no opportunity for a woman born in the 40s in Peru. There was no opportunity to study, and but she was the one in the family that could. So she painted and she did batiks, but stained glass was where she saw there weren't a lot of people going into that. And so I grew up with a writer and a scholar and the figure of Mark Twain, our first great American writer to use American English, not British English, for his novels. And he told stories about ordinary Americans. So I had a model of that on one side. Then on the other side, I had my mother who made art for ordinary people. These were not rich people. These were people that wanted a small, beautiful window in their kitchen that they could see every day. So they would come into our house, they would go upstairs where the studio was, and my mom would make some tea and then talk to them. So where's the sunlight and what do you like? And you want unicorns? Okay, we'll do unicorns. Maybe we don't do Elvis, maybe we try something else. And that's how I negotiate my commissions now. If I get in a discussion and then it seems to me it's something that you create together. To me, creating a piece of music is a little bit like I'm going to do a window for somebody's kitchen. There's something very beautiful about that exchange. So I'm very thankful that they weren't musicians, but yet I had a model,
Absolutely, absolutely.
yeah,
I think
to
that's
to follow.
how poetry and art and two countries and languages and people coming from all over, Jewish and Cantonese and Andina people and wow. So now we're gonna listen to a work by Gabi, and this work is called Apu, and it's a tone poem. And she will tell us a little bit about this work, but let's just let you, our audience, discover the sounds of Gabriela Lena Frank. Let's go and listen to this. Wow. So here we are with this piece. I know that we didn't let our audience listen to the whole piece, but they can look for it in YouTube. And I know that it has three sections, but why don't you talk to us before you talk about these three sections, Gabby? Can you talk to us about Apu, this god of the Incas and Quechua word, and people leaving little food, small amounts of food for him? So can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love to do is I love the mythology of Latin American in general, but then of course of Peru. And the Apu is a little, it's a small god, a small deity that lives in the mountains, and is angered very easily by travelers that don't respect it by walking through its mountain. The mountain belongs to the Apu. So in order to appease the Apu, it's very common for travelers to leave little gifts of food. And I've been through places where I'll see a little humita, which is like a tamal. It's usually sweeter than a tamal, or a hard-boiled egg. I've seen cerveza, a bottle of beer, and nobody touches it. It just stays there. It's almost like the animals don't even touch it. We all know that that's food for the apu, and then you have safe passage. Nothing's going to happen to you. So this piece, I when I write my music, and if I'm going to borrow a figure from mythology, I want to tell a story. So I may add to the story a little bit. So it's in three movements. There's no pause between the movements. So it seems like one journey that you go on,
Mhm.
just seamless. First one is what I imagine to be the music of the area, maybe the village that's there. So we have the landscape. And then the second one is the ayi, which is another Quechua word, which means prayer.
Okay.
And so this is the solemn feeling, the respect that the traveler feels, and maybe he's even praying to the Apu. And then the third movement, the music becomes very vibrant, very boisterous, because this is a youth orchestra, the National Youth Orchestra playing, and children and young people love playing really fast music. They love this movement. And this is when the Apu comes out. And the Apu just flies through the air, showing off what it can do. And then it ends with the prayer, and travelers able to go through. So you get a display of the Apu, the acrobatics, and the lights, and it's a circus show almost. But in the end, everything is okay. So I
The
paint the
being,
story.
the different aspects of the being.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
It's very nice to talk to you. It's because I was thinking like en el último sueño de Frida y Diego, like Diego really took very seriously the Aztec work of sculptures and art, and he translated that into his um, art with his European roots. He was in Paris, blah blah blah. And I think talking to you about like honoring these deities and the mythology, and it's just really it's humbling, I would say. Okay, so now I would like to talk to you about your vocal choral music, which the audience doesn't know, or maybe I don't know. But Gabriela, is a very accomplished composer for choral music. It's really impressive how she writes for the voice, for the chorals, for the choir, the choruses, and well, can you tell us why do you write for the chorus?
I mean, the beauty of the human voice. I have a few colleagues that avoid voice. They prefer instrumentals, and I respect it. I don't understand it. I have always felt drawn to it, and my best work is, even though English is my first language, Spanish is very close because I heard Spanish growing up as well. I have a much easier time writing vocal music of any kind, choral, art song, opera, in Spanish than I do in English. There's something about the beauty of the Spanish
Yeah,
language.
yeah, the
Yeah,
openness of the vowels, no?
openness, but also what it represents to me. Not growing up in Peru, I grew up in Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
I would beg my mother to tell me stories about Peru, and then she would start speaking in Spanish, would teach me some words. So for me, it was Spanish was an entryway to a magical land, a magical place, and then I have to use my imagination for that. So as soon as I hear Spanish, it's almost too magical, too rich when I hear ordinary people speaking Spanish. To me, it's just it's such a gift or such an inheritance. And so when I write choral music, I'm trying to think. I think I've only have maybe one or two pieces that are in English. I think everything else is in Spanish. Uh, and which is perfect. As a composer, you're supposed to set a new landscape, a new universe. The audience is supposed to lose themselves. Like with the apple, you're supposed to lose yourself in the apple. If you can lose yourself and you're surrounded by choral voices, it transports you. So I also think that when I started writing choral music, I actually didn't know a lot of choral music. It wasn't like I had listened to a lot of choral music. So I had my own way of treating it. And sometimes I like to blend voices. So maybe the men are singing higher than the women. And there's a very certain kind of color to that. Maybe women are humming above a man's voice. You're not even sure that the woman is there. There's a certain kind of color to that. Nothing too difficult, really. It's all things that we naturally do. Maybe there are no words necessarily, but you're an echo. So you break up a word, and the echo by somebody else is the last syllable only. And you can create echoes like that.
Mhm.
And
Can
getting
you
quieter.
tell us the name of a work of yours that the audience could listen or find in in YouTube or somewhere?
There are a few different ones. I think there are select movements of hombre errante, which means wandering man, hombre errante. Also with Quechua words, it's about a Quechua man walking through Peru. The poetry is anonymous Spanish Quechua poetry. We don't know who the author is. This is poetry we've inherited through thousands and thousands of years. The imagery is very beautiful. There are several movements, I think isolated ones that are up there. Jalapeno blues might be up there. My first time working with a Chicano slam poet by the name of Trinidad Sanchez. He was
Yeah.
a Jesuit priest for 25 years before he left. And he was always an activist and muy Chicano. He really comes from that era. I learned a lot because I'm not Chicana myself.
Yeah.
Uh, the second song might be my favorite of a set of four called Chicanophobia, and it's really mischievous. You hear a little bit of corrido, like just hints of it inside. It's difficult, virtuoso, which was done by Chanticleer, and it was one of the first, I would say, high profile
Commissions.
choral works that I
Okay,
did.
so guys, we can people we can look for jalapeno blues or hombre errante, and I will write this to you when we see each other. Um, and so now we're gonna listen to this piece called it's a vocal piece. It's called Tambo Bamba, and Tambo. Am I correct? Tambo Bamba.
Carnaval de Tambobamba.
¿Ves? Carnaval de Tambobamba. Tambobamba is a city, is a place. And carnival, pues carnival. So we're gonna listen to this and we'll be back.
Un río de sangre ha arrastrado al joven Tambo Bambín, vino. Él ha muerto. solo su quena está flotando, solo su poncho está flotando, solo su charango está flotando sobre la corriente, y la jovena que la amaba está llorando en las orillas, su idolatrada amante, y llora en las orillas, su adorada está llorando, está llorando, está llorando. Ay, él ya no existe. Un cóndor mira desde los cielos, dando vueltas, busca el joven tambo bambino, no encontrará jamás el río de sangre, el río sangriente lo arrastró, lo envolvió, su adorada está llorando, está llorando, está llorando. Ay, falta, ay, falta, ay, falta, ay, falta, ay, solo su quena está flotando, solo su poncho está flotando, solo su charango está flotando sobre la corriente. Ui falitai, ui fala, ui falalai, ui fala.
Okay, so we come from Tambobamba. What a name, it's like joyful and playful, and I just want to go to Peru. I was telling Gabby, I've never been to Peru, and it's such a rich country in culture, in food, in ancient monuments. It's just a blend, like in Latin America is a blend of all elements. So, Gabby, we're going about to end the program, but before we go, I was thinking that if it would be nice if you could share with a young woman composer some kind of consejo, some kind of advice on how to navigate this very difficult profession that you chose, this mission, so to speak.
The first, yes, the first thing I would say is the world needs you. This profession still doesn't have a lot of women of color, and Latina women, and she's very much needed. And there may not be very many models yet. She's going to have to make these models. She's going to have to find strength and in the fact that as soon as she takes her first step, she's already a pioneer. And she's already of interest. She's already a phenomenon just for existing. And that can be a little scary, but can also be inspiring that the mission is already so clear, even if you don't know the details yet, but that it is so clear. That would be the first thing I would say. The second thing is that then the world needs the best version of her, which is a great motivation for always knowing more, writing more music, opening your mind more to more stories. Her mentors and advisors can be totally unexpected. They may be white men, Latino women, they may be sculptors, they may be writers. She's going to have to learn how to translate non-musical wisdom into musical wisdom. And if you're an artist, you're very good in being a translator like that. It's not just about the practice room. That's a given. The amount of time you're going to spend in the practice room studying scores, that's the ordinary part of it. The extraordinary part of it is going to be her looking at herself and saying, the world needs me. So I need to tell stories that only I can tell and not get normalized, but to stay original as she's developing her voice. But she is very much needed.
This is so beautiful, and I think all of us should thank you for also bringing this opera, this work of Nilo Cruz, El Último Sueño de Frida y Diego, and for bringing Frida and Diego and their humanity and their problems and how they solve them and their love to us, to this world. So I thank you so much for doing that. Gracias.
Thank you. Gracias.
Okay, amigos, so this is the end of our program. We're very honored to have her, and she's our composer in San Diego Opera and right now. And we will see you in the next program. Muchísimas gracias, Gaby. Chao.
Muchísimas gracias.